Greetings everyone, Dwyrin here, and if you are at all like me, chances are you enjoy playing video games. And those around you probably also know that you enjoy playing video games. As a result, you might get one little question over and over and over again. Would I like that? That's the question that we are here to answer today. Would I like SimCity 2013? Now, right off the bat, because I imagine there's going to be a lot of people who are probably going to agree with a lot of what I'm going to say, and a lot of people who are going to be disagreeing with what I'm going to say, that I need to immediately hold everything else and establish my credentials. You see, I absolutely love the SimCities franchise. I do. I really, really do. The first SimCity, the very, very first, not 2013, but the first one. I remember playing that thing on PC. I didn't have one, it was at my friend's at the time. But the minute I learned there was a Super Nintendo version, oh yes, we snatched that up immediately. And we played the frack out of it. We enjoyed watching our friends play the frack out of it. It's just a game that I absolutely loved. And then I learned there was a second game, SimCity 2000. It just kept getting better, right? In the first game, you had a choice of 999 different maps. That is true. Look it up if you don't believe me. In the second one, you could actually design your own maps. That was awesome. You had control over the terrain. You had more options in terms of building things you can give your city. It was larger. It was a step in the right direction. SimCity 3000, I didn't really play very much. Sorry, I just didn't. My PC, it was not up to par at the time, and it really, really lagged, and I just couldn't play it. It's completely my fault, not the game's. But SimCity 4, oh my god, we're still playing that one. The sheer level of detail in that game is pretty cool. It's still larger, very, very, very much larger, so that's cool too. You could design not just your own city, but you could design your own region or country or whatever you wanted to download and install and play on. Absolutely amazing. Definitely the largest SimCity, to date, and the mods just give it so much replayability. Frack, man, I'm still playing SimCity 4. Just check my friggin' channel. I love the game. So, the question, would I like SimCity 2013? When the game first launched, I would have said no. Everybody would say no. Absolutely, positively, emphatically, no fracking way. And the reason for that is because it is the worst launch in the history of games. I mean, some people couldn't even download it. Those who could download it, a lot of people couldn't play it. It was just a disaster. And the only way for them to fix their game was to just take a knife and just start frantically slicing away at the game, cutting as many features as they possibly could in order to get it to run at all stable on their servers. I mean, if they could have cut the ability to actually create a city and still had people play it, they would have. That's how desperate they were to fix their mistake. Which is why we're not going to go over any of that. Because this isn't would I have liked it months ago. This is would I like SimCity 2013 right now. So I'm going to concentrate on the game as is right now with the current patch. And as my mother always used to tell me, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So let's start off with the positive. A while ago, you would find that when you were creating a city, you would have to do it in the manner of which I'm showing you now. In that you could not ever, 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 ever build a 4-point intersection because the simulation just couldn't handle it. It would get confused, your traffic would back up all throughout your city, and your city would grind to a halt. Your civics, for example, they could not find their way around your city. As a result, it would typically burn to the ground, germs would be everywhere because people couldn't get to the hospital, garbage wasn't being collected very well. I mean, it was just a nightmare. So one of the first things I said about asking myself when I wanted to do a review of this game is how far has it come since then? And believe it or not, I had low expectations. I thought it was still going to be the same. However, as we can see here, if we actually use a city completely comprised of 4-point intersections, as I mentioned earlier, this should not work and it should all burn to the fucking ground. But it's not. It's not burning to the ground. My traffic doesn't seem all that bad. This city seems relatively stable. That is a great step forward that they've managed to fix that. Now, I'm not saying that there's no issues with a 4-point intersection. I'm just saying I remember playing this game when it first came out, and even a few patches in, and the thing just died. I had so many cities completely killed because I was using 4-point intersections, and here it seems that we can do that again. So that's great. They're actually starting to fix, you know, the issues that did plague the game, and that's wonderful to see. Another good thing, the game seems to run pretty smooth, though I'm not entirely certain if it's due to optimizations or if it's due to the fact that I'm throwing a lot more at the program than the minimum or even recommended system requirements say that you should. To actually go on about how it performs, I would actually need a different computer closer to the minimum specs, because right now I've got a pretty high-end i5 processor and an AMD 7870, which is running it pretty well, but sometimes on the forums I still see some people complaining about performance issues, so I don't know if it's just me or what's going on or why they're getting it or why I'm not seeing it. Maybe it's because I'm just so far over the system requirements, but for me it runs fine, so I'll tentatively give it a point as well. Some of you may not see the same performance, but I'm playing it nice and smoothly, so I'll go ahead and say that's also a thumbs up. Another thumbs up is that it is in fact multiplayer. You can get a region, as you see here, and invite your friends, or just randomly join other people, and you can have fun playing SimCity 2013. I mean, you guys can play in the same region, you can build your own cities, you can look in on what each other is doing. I mean, that's all pretty cool. That's something that you did not see in the previous iterations of SimCity. So the fact that we are finally getting a multiplayer game in one of the most unique genres there are is absolutely wonderful, and definitely, I'm sure everyone agrees, is about time. If you played SimCity 4 for any length of time, and you ever wanted, you know, your friend to check out your city, I'm sure you all know how much of a hassle it was having to completely zip up your cities, send them over to your friend, make sure that they had all of the add-ons that you had so they can see it properly, and if they didn't, having to track them down and their dependencies, yada yada yada. This way you can just log on, take a peek. That's cool. That's great. I will give that a tentative thumbs up as well. However, as you're probably already noticing, there are some negatives about the game, which we're gonna be getting into now. Now, I want to try to be as gentle about this as I can, but I have to point out that in every previous SimCity, the one that followed it got larger and larger and larger. It was all about creating that city, how those other cities actually connected to other cities. You always felt like every single game was bigger and better than the one that came before it. This one, holy Jesus, oh my, no. No, 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 no. This is not what we wanted in a SimCity, okay? And we've been hoping and praying and crossing our fingers that larger maps were going to come about. We now know beyond a shadow of a doubt that's never, ever going to happen. The reason why that's not going to happen is because their minimum system requirements simply cannot handle an expansion on the city, and they don't feel that enough of their player base actually has a computer that warrants a larger expansion because they won't be able to play it. So what you have is all there's going to be in this game. Happy days. Happy days. Now, I can understand that. I can totally understand that. Okay, sure. These are your minimum system requirements. This is all that these system requirements can handle. Great. But you had to have known that when you agreed on the requirements in the first place. Surely you had some idea. Surely you took your product and you hooked it up to your minimum system requirements and saw, gee, this can barely run now. Do you think that we can ever make this perform better and double or triple the size of this city on this machine? And the answer had to have been a resounding no. But alright, you might say to yourself, dude, why are you getting hung up on the size of this city? Man, you can make a city, and, there's more going on in the city than never before, and you should be happy, right? No, the size of the city greatly takes away from the game. Look at that fracking horizon. Do you see it? Do you see what I see? I see the inescapable reality that you are in a very tiny sandbox. No matter where you are in your city, you can always see the edge of it. And sometimes you can just see blank nothingness like we see on this horizon. No really cool water, no extra terrain off in the distance, no fucking anything really. It's just there. You're in a little sandbox in the middle of nowhere, and that's all you're going to be greeted by. But you might say, wait a minute, there's multiplayer, so no, you aren't going to be alone. No, 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 no. What you're going to be is with friends, and they're going to be creating cities, and these cities are coming up around you. Does it look like that city is coming up anywhere around you? No, it is way far off, and there's nothing between you and them. Okay, I can understand why that I can understand that. I can understand that. Okay? I can forgive them for that. What I can't forgive... Oh my god. If you knew it was going to be like this, and you knew your people, your customers, are going to want some semblance of growth, why on earth couldn't you fix that? Even with just fill in the blanks, right? Each city could be evaluated, and the space in between could have filler buildings until they reach the scale of the next building, right? If you're the only city in a region, then it could just bleed out into farmland and then nothing. That would give you the idea that at least you are part of a region, and that you and the people who you're playing with are actively changing the entire region instead of, I'm in my sandbox, you're in your sandbox, don't come anywhere near me, because you might fucking have cooties. But like I said, the game is not all bad. There are things that it does pretty interestingly, like resources. I loved being able to have my cities gather resources just like in Cities XL. And here you can see we can take crude oil, turn it into fuel, and that works with a variety of different things. As you can see here, your city can specialize in a whole range of different things to kind of give it that unique fuel. You can mine coal, you can turn it into ore and all these other things. You can do things with oil and turn it into plastics and other things, take those plastics and do things with that as well. There's just a lot of different ways that you can specialize your city, and that part, that part now that it's working is good. I absolutely like that feature in SimCity 2013. If there was one thing I'd say it does well, I would say it does that well. Now, the market, that's up for a completely different debate. I'm not going to get into that whole area of the game, and but the way that you can specialize your cities, either just by getting resources, by putting in different cultural buildings, or even, turning it into a gambling city, I like those different things, and that is something that is definitely a nice large point in the game's favor. Which brings us rather nicely into this whole idea that you can in fact specialize your city. They tried to do that with more than just these unique buildings for industry. They also tried to do it in a variety of ways for every civic in the game. And you would think that it would naturally carry over, and that would be a really, really great thing as well. Unfortunately, maybe because the game is really, really easy, or I don't know, a variety of different reasons, I'm not really a fan of that. For example, you can take hospitals, fire stations, police stations, schools, etc., 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 and put modules on them. That's cool, right? As you build your city, you have to micromanage this thing and make sure that your city can keep growing and responding to the things it needs to respond to. Yeah, I wish that was true. I wish there were other conditions for these modules to be unlocked. Unfortunately, in the beginning of the game, you have so much money that what winds up happening is you can just give every module essentially to a specific civic and just forget about it. The result of which is kind of like this. You can build your city, plop all the civics, and then predominantly you're just staring at watching it build, or you're going away from the computer and doing other things. But that's pretty much what the gameplay can be like if you have a reasonable design. I mean, here you can see I'm just letting it run. I began off at like 14,000 people or something like that, and I think it ends at about 54K, and all I really do is I was fixing food, I came back and I checked on a few things, looked around my city, and just resumed this whole staring process. You can just see it grow, which is, you know, cool in and of itself. I mean, just watching a city build from the ground up is kind of interesting. But yeah, you can design your entire city. If you plop the civics, you can see you get enough money for their add-ons and whatnot pretty early on, and recoup that money pretty early on, and the city just grows completely all by itself for the most part. The only thing that really winds up being micromanaged is upgrading the roads. That's pretty much where all your micromanagement goes, clicking on each road individually and telling it to go up when you want it to go up, which can be immediately or can be later, depending on the effects you're going for. And that's, granted, that is micromanagement, but it's kind of the tedious micromanagement that's not really all that enjoyable, and I really wish there was an easier way to do this than checking every single section of road throughout your entire city and clicking on it to go up as you're seeing here. So you might be asking yourself still, why are you making this review? I mean, you could have gone your entire life without making this review, and you know what? That was my original intention. I didn't want to risk, you know, angering one side of my fans or the other, or anything along those lines. I was content to just let this game lie. What really pushed me over is that I'm getting comments now, questions really submitted to me, wondering, I heard there's an expansion out. Is this game worth getting? Should I also get the expansion? What should I do there? And that's what tipped me over. Because I have to answer, as someone who does make videos that do get viewed online, people do take those videos and they do base their purchasing decisions off them. They're like, hey, wow, it looked like you had fun there. I think I'm going to go ahead and purchase this. I mean, I get that comment about everything I play. At least, well, let's just say more often than not. So, is this game worth buying? Is this game for me? Would I like SimCity 2013? Well, let me warn you right now, the full experience of SimCity 2013 right now, with the base game, all of the DLC, excluding the expansion, is going to run you $100, and that's with the discounted base price. It has dropped remarkably since it first came out. I mean, this is a game that when it came out, it was half off by the end of the month that it was released, just so you know. And still, it's going to run you about $100 if you want the full experience with all the DLC. That, on top of the expansion, is going to now run you about $130. That's a lot for a game. So right away, I have to say, if you are questioning the price, and if this game is for you, chances are you shouldn't be getting it, because that is a lot of money to spend on a game. That said, if you do freely have the money and you are looking for a city simulation which you are building yourself a small, and I'm going to reiterate that again, small, larger maps, no go, a small city, then yeah, maybe this game you will enjoy, because that's what you're going to be building. You're going to be building a predominantly a small city. Not really a very large one. Larger maps aren't going to be coming out. Your city sizes aren't going to be continuing to grow. There are mods out there. I'm not going to get into that because EA frowns on that, and I don't want anyone's account being deleted because they tried to expand that. If they are in fact doing that, I don't know if they are or not. As for the expansion, it's not out. I theoretically should not be commenting on it. The only thing I'm going to say at all in regards to the expansion is it's very interesting that the larger you grow your city, the more you have traffic problems. The end game of this game is to ensure there is not a single fracking car on your street, because as your city grows, the less your city is able to handle that, the more your civics do continue to keep getting affected by that, and bad things happen to you. The number used to be 100,000 people. The number has since risen, which is good, but the number is still there. One of the ways that they've decided to try to, combat this problem is one of the DLCs. The commuters, not commuters, what's the word I'm looking for? Rather, the tourists and other consumers that do come into your region, they put out a DLC where they don't really use the roads. They instead fly, right? They made sure they can zip around in airships, so that's really interesting. And the expansion tends to continue this. They are making all of the civics go airborne to completely get off of the roads. So it's kind of like they liked that solution and they built an entire expansion pack around that solution, and now they're charging you $30 for that solution, which really, really rubs me the wrong way. I mean, there's more to the expansion than this, but that key feature immediately raised a flag with me. And I don't know, that just seems off. That just seems really, really off. But that's just my opinion. You don't have to agree. So, to wrap up this rather lengthy review, what is my final rating? And after long consideration, I decided to give it 2 ratings. 1 rating is for the type of player who is looking to buy a city simulation game because they're looking to build a small city, and maybe, just maybe, they have quite a bit of cash to spend that insane price tag on a video game. Then, sure, I'll go ahead and give it a 6 of 10 because it does what it does better than average. There are still some issues, but again, as long as you keep it kind of toned down, don't really think you're building this like really, really huge metropolis, don't think you have this really, really large area to build things with, then you'll probably get your money's worth out of the game, hopefully. If, on the other hand, you want to build a city building game because you are looking to build large, expansive cities, lots of detail, lots of different districts, lots of different areas in your city, lots of variation, then no. This one will get a 4 out of 10 because it doesn't do it very well, and it's never, never, ever, ever going to do so. They've come out and said it, so we finally have our final review of it. I don't take joy in giving it that particular review, but that is all I can do. So, I hope you've enjoyed this review. You are free to disagree with me. I do not take offense to anyone who disagrees with me. But I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you'd like, you can check out the other videos that I have on my channel. You're more than welcome to subscribe if you so wish. Game reviews are something that I'm going to be doing from time to time on games that catch my interest. So you can look forward to those on my channel as well. Until then, I hope you all have a wonderful day, or wonderful night, or wonderful evening, whatever it is you are. And I will see you all next time. Take care, everyone.